Hello, Captain Corpse fans. My name's Elijah Winfrey. I'm the writer and director of Captain Corpse, and joining me is a performer and actress of ours who plays a couple of different roles in our film, Nicole Morgan. Nicole, how's it going?
It's going really well, thank you.
Well, Nicole, I haven't talked to you in what seems like forever, so I'm excited to talk with you a little bit about your performance. I've seen a little bit of it, and I'm absolutely floored by what you were able to do with both characters. Of course, I'm seeing it in the editing process, and obviously I can't wait for the audience to see it. But first question that I want to ask you is, in your career of acting, what made you make the jump to say, I want to get into acting?
Ooh, wow. That's a great question. I think that it's something that I've wanted to experience for as long as I can remember. I was obsessed with movies when I was little. My mom used to explain to me while we were watching movies together all of the behind-the-scenes stuff that went on in it. And admittedly, she let me watch some kind of very scary movies when I was little. I remember the first memory I have is watching An American Werewolf in London. And just being like, whoa, this transition scene where he turns into a werewolf that first time was a lot. But my mom explained to me what special effects were. And that was, I think, my first love. I just went, oh, I want to be the person who does that. As I got older, I sort of realized, oh, well, you know, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera, either way, I'm a part of that. I like the idea of turning kind of illusion into reality, whether through special effects or the acting or whatever. It's just something that really, really resonates with me.
Was there a specific performance that you really latched onto, like outside of that movie, that made you say, hey, I want to, kind of make that transition from special effects towards the actual getting in front of the camera?
I think it was when I first became aware of the concept of character actors versus sort of the leading man and the leading lady who, they're handsome and they deliver the lines well. But it was the side characters that really were interesting to me. The first one I really remember, the movie Pleasantville.
Okay,
William H. Macy and Tobey Maguire. That was a very transformative movie for me. And it wasn't Tobey Maguire and Reese Witherspoon as the main characters. It was the parents. Those characters, I found them so nuanced and real and interesting beyond just that they're good-looking people. Actors are good-looking people, but they were more than that. They were interesting, and I liked that. I remember thinking that William H. Macy was the first time I remember looking at an actor and going, man, he's so interesting. Yeah. And I just have really gravitated toward those people since then.
And I can certainly relate to that feeling. Now, you play two different characters in this film that folks know about, and there's a couple other ones that you also did for us that folks don't know, but it's like a scavenger hunt. Where's Waldo? But anyway, Nicole, let's talk about that first one that you play. Obviously, you play a pivotal role in this movie. You play Alexa. What drew you to the role of Alexa?
That was my first experience with playing sort of a leading lady, or although she wasn't, a main character like, actual Jonah or something. She was the love interest, and that's not something that I had ever seen myself being able to be cast as before, because I thought, I don't fit that mold. I'm not, an ingenue. And so when you came and you asked if I would like to try out, and I thought for sure I'm just going to try out for a bit part, and you said, what about Alexa? And I remember saying, I don't think I'm right for that role. I'm not. And you were like, you encouraged me to sort of step outside of my own self-prejudices, like I put myself in a box. And you encouraged me to step outside of that. And I was like, wow, I think I might try that. Just, to kind of grow as a person. And I felt like it was out of my comfort zone because nobody had ever said, do you want to play the love interest before?
So with the character of Alexa, as some folks have maybe picked up on, Alexa has some health issues in this film, but she's not letting those health issues define her. She's trying to rise above it and is very strong in this film. Was there anything in specific that really helped you get into character on set?
interestingly, that aspect of the character was not hard for me to get into at all because I can very much relate. I too have a plethora of complicated and messy and inconvenient health problems. And I feel like I'm, as a person, trying to always figure out a way to not let that define me and overcome it and further my career, even though they're there. And while not adopting that as a core identity, but still at the same time having to advocate for myself, it's a kind of a tricky balance to find. And so I think that working through that, almost that same process through Alexa, where she's trying to advocate for herself, support the man she loves, but, also not let her illness define her and hold her back. It was almost like through acting as Alexa, I got to find more clarity and be stronger in my own self. Like, okay, yeah, like this is me, this is her, but there's a little bit of a crossover there, which I felt was almost like therapy in a little bit of a way.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that, Nicole. And I know you and I spent a lot of time too talking about Alexa and kind of where I was coming from, where I was writing the character, and it's always so interesting how these films come together, whether it's independent or big budget, whatever it is. There's always like this magic in the air, like your story of what you're going through and how I was writing it. We didn't know each other prior to doing this movie, and all of a sudden it just came together, and it was this beautiful thing. So I appreciate you, obviously opening yourself up and being vulnerable in this character, and I think it really makes the performance shine as a whole, and I really can't wait for people to see it. So Nicole, as we wrap up this section of our interview about Alexa, I got to ask you, so obviously we don't have a release date yet, but when people see this film, what is it that you want them to take away from your performance, if you can try to sum that up?
I hadn't really thought about that, actually. I've been so excited about the ensemble and just the whole thing as a whole, but I hope that they take away from it that it was kind of a heart project, like I hope they take away from it how much everybody loved being a part of it, because it's just radiating off of everybody. And I hope that they can tell that for me as well. And also, admittedly, I've been a part of sets where it didn't feel comfortable and it didn't feel like a loving ensemble, and I just felt like I just kind of wanted to get my lines out and do a good job, and this didn't feel like that at all. It felt like when you have like a group of friends getting together and you're all making this passion project that's full of joy and excitement, and I hope that shows, I hope that it shows that it was just such a wonderful thing to do.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I know sometimes I would look at you, because folks who don't know, Nicole has acted in many other things before. So for me as a young director, I would look over at some of the different performers that we had on set who have done this whole thing before, and this is only my second film, so I'd look over there for reassurance and be like, "Are we good? Is that the right thing?" And Nicole would just be there in that moment and be like, "We're good." So I appreciate that very much. I appreciate the backup. So Nicole, let's switch over to your other character that you play in this film. Two very different performances, by the way. You have Alexa, who's kind of going through it, and then you have Bri, who is a police officer for the Medina Police Department in this film, and that was like a real comedic performance. What drew you to that role as Bri? Because I remember in the audition process, we were like, okay, let's try out for Alexa, and then I said, hey, I think it was like a day later, I said, hey, what if you played two roles? But what drew you to that?
The comedy. Absolutely. The comedy. I've been dying to do comedy forever. I feel like every role I get put in, I'm crying and I'm stressed out, and it's a lot. And I think that if you were to only see those things, you wouldn't know that you would think that was me, a crying, stressed out person. And it's like, I'm actually like the person who is always making inappropriate jokes. So that kind of snarky, dry humor that she had was chef's kiss. I just wanted to be that so bad.
Well, hey, like I said, I have the benefit of being able to see the footage, so like, take my word for it, she nailed it, folks. So, as far as getting into that character, you said obviously you've been chomping at the bit to do a comedy.
Yeah.
Getting into that character, what helped you? What inspired you whenever you were getting ready and I said action?
I think it'd be a combination of sort of just thinking about all those characters, those types of characters that I like so much, but then also having my sassy girl playlist ready to go to listen to between takes. I kind of scoot out to my van and listen to my, that music that hypes you up, gets you in that mood. So
I as well have a sassy girl playlist. I'm just kidding, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, here we go, and just the excitement of, oof, I finally get to do this, and I guess if it's like going to the fair, you're just really excited to get to do it.
Right.
It's so much fun.
And as far as your performances, Bri, kind of similar question what we asked with Alexa. After people see this movie, when they finally get a chance to see it, what is it that you hope Bri, gets as far as a reaction is concerned?
Laughter, mostly. Yeah, I hope people find her funny and not mean. I certainly found her funny, and I'm like a sensitive person. So when I think people are mean, like it's I will think they're mean right away. Like, oh, that was mean. Like, why did they say that? And other people, that's a joke. Well, it was a mean joke. but here, I just had so much fun. Like, I hope other people find the interactions between her and Beckett to be as snappy and witty as I found them.
It's funny that you mentioned Beckett, because I feel like everybody involved in this production, we've all talked about Beckett at one point or another in the film. And I just want to make it clear to folks who are, following on Facebook, look, there's a lot of great performances in this, but this was the first time we ever had one where we had the ears and all the different body paint and everything. So Jim Moscatello, a huge shout out to you, my friend. And I do believe we'll be getting Jim to talk as well fairly soon. But as we wrap up this interview with Nicole, first I want to say, Nicole, I really appreciate you taking the time. And lastly, obviously, you were on set. You were involved in almost every single scene of this movie. For folks who are anxiously awaiting, why should they be excited about Captain Corpse?
Because it was so much fun to make, right? We all had so much fun. And it's clearly obvious, like the whole thing is just a production. It's a whole labor of love and joy. And I genuinely think that if people watch it and feel like it's infectious, they're going to feel that. The joy that everybody had making it is going to translate to the people watching it, and they're going to leave smiling and laughing. And that's always a good thing.